Hey, church. So it is Wednesday, June 11th. We continue in Psalm 78 for our daily devotional series. Um, Longer section today. I was really debating breaking it up and giving us 6 sections instead of 5, but it kind of, in today's section, we get into the recounting of the deliverance of Israel from Egypt. Um, and so there's material, and I figure we'll work on through it. So, and as a reminder, we finished off yesterday with the flower of Israel, or as Peterson does, the young men of Israel losing their lives in the midst of not following God's commands. So the NRSV line is the anger of God rose against them, and he killed the strongest of them and laid low the flower of Israel. And now we pick up in verse 32. Oh, I'm sorry. In spite of all this, they still sinned. They did not believe in his wonders, so he made their days vanish like a breath and their years in terror. When he killed them, they sought for him. They repented and sought God earnestly. They remembered that God was their rock, the Most High God, their Redeemer. But they flattered him with their mouths. They lied to him with their tongues. Their heart was not steadfast toward him. They were not true to his covenant. Yet he, being compassionate, forgave their iniquity and did not destroy them. Often he restrained his anger and did not stir up all his wrath. He remembered that they were but flesh, a wind that passes and does not come again. How often they rebelled against him in the wilderness and grieved him in the desert. They tested God again and again and provoked the Holy One of Israel. They did not keep in mind his power or the day when he redeemed them from the foe, when he displayed his signs in Egypt and his miracles in the fields of Zoan. He turned their rivers to blood so that they could not drink their streams. He sent among them swarms of flies which devoured them and frogs which destroyed them. He gave their crops to the caterpillar and the fruit of their labor to the locust. He destroyed their vines with hail and their sycamores with frost. He gave over their cattle to hail and their flocks to thunderbolts. He let loose on them his fierce anger, wrath, indignation, and distress, a company of destroying angels. He made a path for his anger. He did not spare them from death, but gave their lives over to plague. He struck all the firstborn in Egypt, the first issue of their strength in the tents of Ham. Then he led out his people like sheep and guided them in the wilderness like a flock. He led them in safety so that they were not afraid, but the sea overwhelmed their enemies. And he brought them to this holy hill, to the mountain that his right hand had won. He drove out nations before them. He apportioned them for a possession and settled the tribes of Israel in their tents. Little reminder there when we were doing the 23rd Psalm. I think, and we included that for Good Shepherd Sunday too. But one of the unique parts of the 23rd Psalm is it refers to God as my shepherd rather than as the shepherd of the flock, which is a very common image, but the little nuance there. And a little bit from James Mays. And yesterday we talked about learning from failures, and ultimately the scripture uplifting that for the audience, whether it be then or now, that we're being reminded of how previous generations have not maintained faithfulness to the covenant, and trying to be inspired to do that ourselves and leaning upon God's grace as we go. The two cases of failure illustrate dangers that always threaten the people of the Lord. The psalmist may have selected them because they were particularly relevant to his audience and their situation, but they are mistakes of faith that endanger every generation. The first mistake was to crave and demand more than they were given. The ancestors in the wilderness made their desire the measure of their need and wondered whether the Lord could indeed spread a table in the wilderness. The second mistake was to worship at high places, the shrines of the Canaanite gods. Once in the land, The ancestors sought salvation and blessing from other gods besides the Lord. The speaker uses a rich vocabulary to evaluate both mistakes as at root the same. That's odd. The speaker uses a rich vocabulary to evaluate both mistakes as at root the same. Such conduct is sin, falling short of the mark. It is rebellion, recalcitrance toward those to whom one is responsible. It is testing God, putting God's power in question. It is not believing in the Lord, not relying on the Lord alone and completely to be God for them. It is not observing the covenant and its instructions. It is forgetting the Lord, not remembering his mighty works for them. The speaker uses this vocabulary to hammer home the lesson that wanting more than the salvation and blessing God provides and seeking salvation and blessing from another source are both failures to trust themselves to the Redeemer and his redemption. Thank you, James Mays. And now we're Peterson. And it's always, and especially, I mean, you probably got some of the kind of pointed, maybe a little cynicism out of the NRSV, and he always does a pretty direct job with that. And again, it finishes where we finished yesterday. Finally, God was fed up. His anger erupted. He cut down their brightest and best. He laid low Israel's finest young men. And here we go. And can you believe it? They kept right on sinning. All those, sorry, all those wonders, and they still wouldn't believe. So their lives dribbled off to nothing to show for their lives but a ghost town. When he cut them down, they came running for help. They turned and pled for mercy. They gave witness that God was their rock, the high God was their redeemer, but they didn't mean a word of it. They lied through their teeth the whole time. They could not have cared less about him, wanted nothing to do with his covenant. And God, compassionate, forgave the sin, didn't destroy. Over and over, he reined in his anger, restrained his considerable wrath. He knew what they were made of. He knew there wasn't much to them. Oh, that's good. How often in the desert they had spurned him, tried his patience in those wilderness years. Time and again, they pushed him to the limit, provoked Israel's holy God. How quickly they forgot what he'd done, forgot their day of rescue from their enemy. When he did miracles in Egypt, wonders on the plain of Zoan, he turned the river to its streams to blood, not a drop of water fit to drink. He sent flies which ate them alive, and frogs which bedeviled them. He turned their harvest over to caterpillars, everything they had worked for to the locust. He flattened their grapevines with hail. A killing frost ruined their orchards. He pounded their cattle with hail, let thunderbolts loose on their herds. His anger flared a wild firestorm of havoc, an advance guard of disease-carrying angels. An advance guard of disease-carrying angels to clear the ground, preparing the way before him. He didn't spare those people. He let the plague rage through their lives. He killed all the Egyptian firstborns, lusty infants, offsprings of Ham's virility. Then he led his people out like sheep, took his flock safely through the wilderness. He took good care of them. They had nothing to fear. The sea took care of their enemies for good. He brought them into his holy land, this mountain he claimed for his own. He scattered everyone who got in their way. He staked out an inheritance for them. The tribes of Israel all had their own places. That was fun. Peterson. Yeah. So we'll be finishing up Psalm 78 tomorrow. Thank you for continuing to check in on our daily devotionals and appreciate your feedback as always. And we will reminder that we got chicken barbecue coming up on Saturday, and we will see you tomorrow. Have a great day. Bye-bye.